All right, here we go again. John Burton here with you. And let's talk about taking cities. That's a big, huge, crazy idea. What does it look like to see revival land in a city? Well, we really don't know, because in America, there's over 19,000 cities, and none of them are experiencing the biblical normalcy of revival. And so I write about this in my book, 20 Elements of Revival. This is a constant theme with me. It's a constant tension, because I look out there on the landscape of God's advancing kingdom in the earth, and I'm thinking, whew, what's this going to look like when an entire city finally encounters revival? And I think all of us should stop and think for a minute. Well, wait a minute, we're living outside of that normal life. We're living outside of that outpouring. We're living outside of that revival, the healing, the manifestation of God's power. As a normal way of living, we're living outside of that, and so we just need to change that. We're not waiting for God to bring revival. We're not saying a prayer hoping revival lands. We're launching it. We're initiating it. We're strategically causing things to happen. And that's what I want to talk to you about. Or with you about here just a little bit. What do we do? What are some steps that we can take in order to see a city taken? Well, we could sit here forever, and we're not going to do that. I'm going to try to keep this as short as I can, because there's a lot of things that we could talk about. First, let's start off kind of in this direction. In order to see a city, let's even start with a church. Hey, let's start personally. In order to see an individual experience revival, that means significant shifting has to come to that individual's life. Revival isn't simply about nice things happening, good things happening. It's not simply about the blessings, all of that good stuff. It's about shifting. It's about recalibrating. We saw, for example, with Gideon, what happened with Gideon. Remember, they were like living in fear, because all of their crops were being stolen. So they'd plant the corn or whatever they were planting, and then it would be stolen. And so they were crying out. They were crying out for God to help, which is what a lot of us do. God help. The bills aren't paid. Nobody likes me. I'm struggling in my career. Fill in the blank. God help. And so usually what people think, or what people want to happen, is God just snaps his fingers and help is on the way, knight in shining armor, everything is made perfect, and we live happily ever after. Well, that's not the way generally God does it. What happened in the story of Gideon is, when they were crying out, that there was a prophetic message. So God will send a prophet into a situation that needs calibration to God's perfect plan. And that's a problem so often. Because we want just the quick answer, but God's saying, you know what? The reason why you're in financial ruins is because of this, this, and this. I want you to recalibrate to biblical living. And when you do that, when you start living according to what my word has already declared, then things are going to start to work for you. So no, I'm not going to just give you the check in the mail. I'm not just going to give you the quick answer. I'm going to recalibrate you. I'm going to give you a prophetic message because I love you, and I'm going to recalibrate you, and then you're going to see finances start to kick in your life. And so that's true for every situation. Of course, there are times when God will just immediately touch because he loves us. In his wisdom, of course, he does that. He does that quite often, actually. But unless we also recalibrate in that moment, it doesn't tend to last. It doesn't tend to stick. And so here we are with the idea of city-wide revival. And so we're not simply going to just pray. I love the prayer movement. I'm a prayer guy. I pray all the time. We need to pray more, praying in the Spirit. We have a school of fire that is birthed on the Romans 8 groans of intercession. And so that's big for us. But we can't simply sit back and pray that God brings revival. Because what is left out of the equation is our responsibility to change, our responsibility to act, our responsibility to move, to govern, all of these kinds of things. And so here's the idea. We've got to be vigilant. We've got to be aggressive. There's this, we got to be careful that we don't equate humility with passivity. To be actually, the more humble you are, the more bold you'll become, because the fear of man will go and the fear of God will come, and you will suddenly turn into a fire-breathing messenger of heaven, declaring the word of the Lord. And so that's the prophetic message has to shock us, has to rock us, and so that's the beginning of change. Now, what about this prophetic message thing? What does that look like? All of us are called to declare the word of the Lord. We're called to function as prophetic messengers. If we believe that our prophetic messages, our words of calibration, our words of shifting and change, if we believe that those words are going to result in most people being exhilarated and excited, and maybe just a few people resisting, we're done before we begin. A prophetic message truly does encourage. But the problem is God's method of encouragement oftentimes is in the form of judgment, and not the evil, bad God, I'm mad at you, God type judgment. That's not the way it works. It's God loving, saying, you know what? Okay, let me bring a little judgment into your life. Let me make wrong things right. Let me bring some redirects and corrections and these types of things. And okay, it's not going to be easy. It's going to be a little tough. You got yourself into this mess. America, you got yourself into this mess where revival isn't normal. City of Detroit, where I'm at here, you got yourself into this mess. Okay, Church of Detroit, you got yourself into this mess. Now, okay, you're crying out for help. Let's bring a prophetic calibration, and we're gonna go ahead and do that. Well, the reality is we are where we are because we want to be where we are. Honestly, we are the life that we're living now is based on the choices that we've made willingly because we wanted to make those choices. And so there's a prayerless church out there because we made a choice not to pray, because we're not seeing immediate results, or we're not connecting, or who knows why, so we don't pray because of that. We're in the fix that we're in. We're not doing the things that God's calling us to do. We're not advancing with authority. We're not governing. We're not decreeing God's plans. We're not battling the enemy. We're not worshiping deeply. Fill in the blank. And there's a lot of good things going on, but let's face it, we're 19,000 cities in the nation, none of them in revival, and there's a reason for that. Okay, so the prophetic message that's going to come isn't going to be just a sweet message saying, God loves you, God bless you, you're doing well here. Let's see, maybe a nice little touch from heaven will come your way if you pray enough. And that's not what's coming. A recalibration is gonna be a little tough. And so don't think that when you start declaring calibration, prophetic calibration, that most people are going to respond with excitement, because it's a call for them to change. And we in this nation, we're very independent. We like to have control over our own lives and these kinds of things. It's like, well, wait a minute, I'm not listening to that word because I don't really want to change. I'm doing what I'm doing because that's what I want to do. Well, what happens is most will resist. I mean, we see that in Acts. 120 people or so end up in that upper room, and that's it, right? And these people, these were the ones that were willing to calibrate. They were willing to change. They were willing for to be shifted. These kinds of things, but most weren't. Of course, after the fire fell in Acts chapter 2, we see a whole world of problems there in the city. People were mocking them, and resisting them, and Peter's delivering a sharp message, and and these kinds of things. And so don't presume that your city taking prophetic calibration message is going to excite a lot of people. It's not. But here's what you need to understand. You're not in this to excite people. That's not the goal. You're not in this. You're not in this. You don't want to win your city just so that people can, get all excited about your big ideas. You're in it to win the city, to take the city, to advance the kingdom, to all those people out there that are on the verge of suicide, and they're killing babies, and through abortion, and there's abuse and addictions, on and on and on. There's depression, there's hopelessness, there's despair, there's poverty, sickness. Because of all of those issues in the city, that's why the prophetic message must come. And the expectation is that there will be a remnant that will respond to the prophetic call to calibrate to kingdom life. And it's that remnant that will result in the outpouring and in the breakthrough. Let me say this. I am a city church guy. I mean, I'm pro-pastor, pro-church, pro-God. I mean, everything God loves, I'm doing my best to love too. But just the idea of the city church and all of us gathering and doing it together, and over the years I have learned that, number one, it's absolutely appropriate to cast the vision and to believe that the pastors, the leaders of the city, are going to respond and gather and these kinds of things. So I continually cast that vision. We have something every Friday night as a part of the lab. It's the lab prayer events every Friday night from 10 to midnight. This is part of our strategy. I would love to travel to your area and train you and impart this strategy into you. I love doing this. I can bring some of my team with me if you would like that as well. But so every Friday from 10 to midnight, there's an alarm that sounds, and we're calling. We're in fact, I wish I had one here. I've got one of our posters, or it's online. We're calling every single pastor, hundreds of pastors, every pastor, every leader, every burning man and woman of God in the Detroit region, every single one of them, every Friday night, to gather together in a different church that's not their own, as an indication of servanthood and unity, where we hit the road, we travel to another church somewhere in the region, and we pray with fire for 2 hours. We just go after it, and so we've been doing that for over a year now. We've been in, if I've got my numbers right, I think we've been in over 50 churches or so, something like that, and we're looking to double that number again by the end of the year here in 2012, and so that's the call. So I'm, here in Detroit, I know apostolically, prophetically, God's laid this vision on me to sound the alarm, to gather the people, to pray, to cry out to the Lord, to respond to what He's doing, believing that, on a Friday night from 10 to midnight, almost nobody has anything going on, no appointments, no plans, so it's a wide open slot. And so the expectation is that certainly the entire city can show up. We're believing, as this develops, that we're going to have 1,000 people with us every Friday night as we travel from church to church. Some of these churches only hold 50 people. Some of them only hold 25 people. Some of them are bigger. But can you imagine putting 1,000 people? You're not going to fit them all in the church. So then what happens? Then we start moving throughout the neighborhood, 10 o'clock to midnight, praying and releasing fire just over the neighborhood. And so that's the vision. God very clearly gave me that vision of 1,000 men and women of God gathering together. Our tagline is "Don't sign up, show up." This isn't a Facebook prayer group. This is get your feet on the turf with us, lock arms, 10 o'clock to midnight, bring the kids, make the sacrifice, get into the night and pray. And so that's our call. And it's been powerful. I mean, it's the most powerful thing that we do. And we do a lot of powerful things, man. Our Sunday services are off the hook. I mean, God's showing up. People are being healed. There's signs and wonders and gold dust and oil and angels and all sorts of crazy things. It's amazing. But I wouldn't trade anything for our Friday nights right now. And because we're going into the churches of the city, and we're blessing pastors. And I tell every one of them, I want your church to outgrow my church. I want your church to have more money than my church. I want your church to have more favor than my church. I want to bless you. I want those aren't just words, that's my heart. I want to see that happen. I want to see you prosper. And because I know as churches prosper in the city, lives are going to be changed. The hurting and the lost are going to get set free. And so that's the expectation. That's what we do. I mean, on Friday nights, we'll have right now, 50, 60, 70 people, depending on, who's showing up that night. And it's amazing. We did the same thing in Colorado Springs. We were in over 100 churches there every Friday night from 10 to midnight. And so that's the expectation, or that's the desire. Let me say it that way, probably a better word. That's the desire of my heart. That's the mandate. That's the call. That's the apostolic alarm, But I also understand two things. Number one, most aren't going to respond, because the call it's a call to shift off of some of the tracks that we've been running on for years. It's to break down kingdoms of man. It's to put an end to that. It's to take dominion of our calendars, of our schedules. It's to make that change, to make the turn, to turn the corner. And it's a threatening call, because if we're suddenly de-emphasizing local ministry and we're emphasizing regional ministry, then suddenly that can threaten us, because what happens when my local church, maybe my focus isn't there, and I'm leading the charge into the city. Well, then what happens locally? Well, because that's where my money and that's where my connections are. That's where my salary is. All of that kind of stuff locally. So if I start focusing regionally to the city church, well, then what about all this other stuff? And let's be real. These things go through our heads. They go through our minds. And I've had to wrestle with these things in the past. I've had some crazy breakthroughs. I'll share those stories at another time. Just how God had just set me free from being afraid of losing money and losing my reputation and losing people as I lead and I shift directions and I lead the ministry. And it's a powerful thing, but it's tough. So I absolutely get that. And then secondly, I also get that there's going to be some pastors that just aren't on the same page. That's totally true. I'm kind of crazy. I'm out there. I'm bold. I'm leading with passion. I'm aggressive. I'm burning. And all of that kind of stuff. I have a certain focus, and there's other focuses that I don't have that are good focuses that other people do have, and I value that. That's valid. So I appreciate that. I appreciate that people are doing different things, and then thirdly, there's people out there. A lot of them I know that are blazing trails better than I am here in Detroit. I mean, really blazing trails. They're powerful. They're amazing. They got big visions, and they're simply supposed to be involved in what they're doing. And I get that they're not supposed to possibly be a part of what we're doing here. And so I get all that. So you need to just be free to run ahead boldly, be very bold, be very aggressive, and then yield as God opens up other opportunities, maybe that other people are giving leadership to. And so be bold and aggressive, and then yield if something else, if there's a fire in the night in another part of the city. It's like, you know what? God's doing something over there. I honor what's going on over there. I'm going to serve what's going on over there. And but yeah, it's an interesting thing for sure. The city strategy thing is huge. Get my book, 20 Elements of Revival. Talk about this. Someone asked me several years ago. I was at Dutch Sheets Church in Colorado Springs one day, and we went. Me and some friends, new friends, just met them. Went out to lunch that day, and they were. This was as I was writing my book, 20 Elements of Revival, and they asked me the question because we were talking about city strategy, and they said, "Do you believe that that regular pastor lunches and pastor pastors of the city coming together and pastor meetings, and do you think that that's the answer to revival in a city?" And I said, no, not even close, not even close. Honestly, I personally don't usually come alive during those kinds of meetings, because let's be real, you get in there and there's a million different agendas, and you really don't usually get things done. It takes strong apostolic leadership to say, hey, let's table all this other great stuff. This is what we're all doing together. And it's rare, honestly, to have apostolic leadership in a city that captures attention and that gives that type of leadership. When that apostolic authority isn't there, then you have all these different agendas and directions and all these kinds of things, and some of, most of these agendas and directions are really great. But what happens when you come together in a meeting? Any meeting, if you've got 10 different people and 10 different directions and 10 different ideas, well, they're all going to do their own thing. What's the point of the meeting other than to have some coffee or a sandwich? And it's not that it's a bad thing. It's nice to make friends. It's nice to connect, but it's not even close to being the answer to revival. Only when we see apostolic leadership in a city rise up, when there can be that very decisive leadership, and where the call can be there and the clarity can be there, where everything else is tabled or redirected or facilitated in a different way, reorganized, then these city church gatherings are going to be not only important, but crazy important, critical. And so that's the goal. So there's goals, and then there's process. So we're in the process right now. Goals would be every pastor, every leader in the city praying together every Friday night from 10 to midnight. Absolutely. Goals would be strong apostolic leadership over the city and a responsive pastoral and leadership team in the city. All of us on the same page, all of us doing the same thing, all of us resourcing the same mission. So that's kind of the idea. And so bold prophetic messages are going to cause a problem. Even they're going to cause more problems than they solve in the early stages, and just be ready for that. But have a heart of love, have a heart of serving, have a heart of honor. Even when there's conflict, never buy into it. Never give into it at all. Bless, serve, encourage. Never let anything taint your heart. Out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. Never let anything tainted come out of your mouth. Always encourage and bless and love and serve, but continue fulfilling the mission that God's given you. And I hope that mission includes taking cities. All right? I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to hear what you have to say. Email me, john@johnburton.net. I'm ready to hit the road or jump a plane and come out and serve you, minister, revival and strategy and all sorts of different things. I'd love to do that and to encourage you that way. So just go to johnburton.net/booking. And you can get all the information about what it takes to get me out there. It's really pretty simple. And hey, I'd love to bring some of my team too, if that's in the cards as well. So all right, there you go. Let's see revival in our cities. Talk to you soon.